they'll program the frequency to beam to somebody, to an individual, and put thoughts in their mind and control them from that point.
Nanotechnology they have been putting in chemtrails, is that correct?
That is correct. Isn't that gross?
Oh my God.
Space Force! Space Force! He's a man!
Aliens?
Who is your daddy?
Good morning.
Who is your daddy?
What's the matter?
We'll do it live! That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. All right, go.
Welcome to Talk is Cheap, where cheap is talk and talk is cheap. I'm your host, Dan Hohlfeld. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today on the K2D4 network. Now, it was a few weeks ago, probably 2 weeks ago now, I was talking about Nicholas Cruz and how the voice of God was used and making these people not do what they would normally do. And some of the audience agreed with it, some didn't. Some just said that this guy was crazy. Well, one of my viewers reached out to me and said, look at all this information, this is a bigger thing going on here. And rather than me try to break all this down and try to explain it, I figured why not just have her on. And her name is Lisa Scheeler. Lisa, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So there's a lot to break down here. Like, we're talking about AI, black goo, Morgellons, voice of God, targeted individuals, smart dust. You originally brought smart dust up to me. So where do you want to start? How do you want to do this? There's a lot of information to cover here. And we want to kind of go in the direction of the target individuals. I kind of really want to focus on that. But
okay,
you want to start back a little bit and try to bring up history with it?
Well, actually, targeted individuals and AI and smart dust all are closely related to each other. When I was viewing the tape of Nicholas Cruz and a tape prior to that with Jesse Ventura and this doctor who was a CIA scientist that worked for DARPA and the DOD and the Department of Justice. He is the gentleman, Dr. Robert Duncan, who developed the voice of God. And I went in to look into further research, and what I discovered was this technology and the way that it affects an individual was very closely related. The Nicholas Cruz video that was put out and was a short 2.5-minute video that was released by the Broward County Attorney General's office. And this young man had all of the signs of it. So it's
Are you talking about the video where he's before it happened? Before the shooting?
The morning of the shootings, correct.
And I'm going to be the next school shooter of 2018. My goal is at least 20 people with an AR-15 and a couple tracer rounds. I think I can get it done. Location is Stone Douglas in Parkland, Florida. It's going to be a big event. And when you see me on the news, you'll all know who I am. You're all going to die. Pew, 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 pew.
So it sounds like he's clearly out of his mind.
Clearly, and compared this video with the actual police interrogation, the young man was completely on opposite sides of the world with his behavior. And this behavior, Dr. Duncan explained, exhibits the voice of God is a portion of nanotechnology, and that nanotechnology is the foundation that a lot of artificial intelligence and weaponized technologies are developed on top of. This technology is can be sent to you by many different methods. It's a wireless technology, and
Yeah. So how does this work? Are they like is somebody like got to be close to you, like beaming these words at you?
no. As a matter of fact, this technology can be low Earth orbit is one way, and they use satellites to beam it down to a targeted individual. They will they can pull up to your driveway and shoot a beam of microwaved, frequencies, and do electronic harassment to a individual in their house. The voice of God technology, they can program your mind and take over your neural thoughts by a programmer. These individuals that are behind the Black Ops projects. They're programmers that work within this field, and what they do is they'll program the frequency to beam to somebody, to an individual, and put thoughts in their mind and control them from that point. They can
Yeah,
walk.
at some point they think it's their own thoughts, but after, I mean, there's a few, I'm going to show a clip of this other dude where they know it's not their thoughts.
Right.
And it's just like, you could see how that would drive you crazy when it's constantly over and over telling you to do something.
That is correct, and this technology has been developed, has been tested, is in the testing phases, experimenting on people, and there's different levels of it depending on what the military, because this is where it originates from. The technology is developed for our military. It starts with DARPA, and that's from that the Black Ops projects, which is incidentally where trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars had disappeared from. And
Funneled from the taxpayers.
all yes,
Of course.
that wasn't meant to be disclosed, but since our president has come into office, everything is coming at us so fast and furious now. It's insane.
The hammer's falling.
The hammer's falling, and it's a good thing because the
And it only makes common sense.
that's right. I love that. That's funny. Something else too, as these phases of technology develop into a further practice, the military has been working on what they call a cybernetic hive mind. And what that is advanced artificial intelligence that it will put send a thought or present a thought to one individual, and 4 or 5 other individuals on the same frequency will get the same thought, and it's processed as fast as the original person, the person number 1 who is thinking the thought. So that is how they were going to control originally the entire population by doing this. The smart dust that plays an integral part in this is a neural transmitter that is as tiny as a speck of dust, and it has been blanketing, the skies for a very long time.
So this is like nanotechnology they have been putting in chemtrails. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's a video, I believe, that shows you. It's the U.S. Military's micro drone.
They got like a swarm of drones that they release.
Okay, well that's another way. The swarm of drones.
This is for the warfare.
That's actually, yeah, and actually what the swarm of drones have the ability to do is to be programmed to hunt and kill. They will go to a target, and zero in on them. It takes a facial recognition picture of you, and it sends it back to the programmer so that they can follow you through. But no, it's the U.S. Army video.
Well, this is scary stuff right here, because if you think about it, it's like it feels so futuristic, but it's like obviously they can do this now, and then if they want to kill somebody, just drop all these, release them, boom, get the target, and it'll show that slide here in a minute where all this drones swarm around the target. It's like you have no chance.
You have no, and the interesting thing about this is they're 30 years ahead of what the American people were even aware of. So they've been actually working on these technologies, and they've been funded, by the Black Ops projects, and whatever's going on in the industrial complex, they might need to contract something out to another civilian company to develop, for instance, the Cuban embassy that was hit, I believe it was earlier this year or last year, and it was all of the people that were inside. They sent a frequency that disrupted it, hurt their eardrums, and they couldn't, handle. Do you recall that?
No, I don't.
Okay, it was the American embassy in Cuba, and they targeted several people within by sending a frequency and blasting their eardrums, damaging their eardrums actually, and that was a sonic frequency.
And what was the purpose of that? Trying to just make them
they were targeting a crowd of people. There's many different methods.
All right, so you got a video here, this nano spy drone. This is kind of interesting. So we got basically it looks like a mosquito. You got a camera and a microphone on the front, a power source, which is right behind, I guess it would be the body of it. Mm-hmm. Processor looks like the tail. I mean, this is insane.
That, yeah, and that has, within that little microprocessor actually is this might be, boy, I sure wish I knew what happened to that slide, because, yeah, isn't that crazy? Because there's an actual tiny camera that is built into that.
Oh, there we go. There's another.
Okay. I didn't even see that one, actually. This
is so crazy thinking about how much technology they pack into something so small. They can release this on the public and you have no idea.
The public has been completely unaware for so many years. And last night, while I was just wrapping up things and YouTube, I went into my menu, and believe it or not, Crowdsourced the Truth with Jason Goodman. He had a guest on who happens to reside in Phoenix, Arizona, who is a targeted individual. There's the camera, I believe, right there in the front. But because it shows exactly how this particular drone technology works, as they're sitting there spying on you, it was built into what appeared to be a bird object, and a mechanical bird that was sitting on a wire on a telephone line, and was zoned in on an individual who was sitting in a van, and it was just an exercise that they were using.
And I do remember, like, when I was in school, they talked about, well, I think I saw it in one of those popular mechanic magazines or something, like putting controls on a cockroach, but it was a live cockroach, and I do remember seeing that. And now they're just doing the whole thing like this, but that was the start.
Well, that was the beginning, and that's what the neural dust, nano dust, smart dust, that is had been blanketing our skies. It's in our crops. It's in our packaged processed food. It's everywhere, and most
So
recently,
everybody basically has this in them.
everybody does.
This is insane.
And to take it a step further, I was listening to a doctor who was exposing this information to people. The little teeny tiny RFID chips now are being inserted into the clothing lines for big stores that people shop at. So it's somehow embedded into your clothing so that they can track you. Now, the way that the hopes were and the direction that this was going in was created and by a stolen patent from a gentleman by the name of Michael McKibben. And Mr. McKibben is the inventor of the algorithm that Facebook.
Hold on to that thought a minute, because I want to
Okay.
show this clip, because we were talking about this stuff being in everybody.
Okay,
And
that sounds good.
So-
Okay.
so this is actually a clip. What people do is they put grapefruit juice in their mouth, hold it in there for a few seconds, spit it out on a plate, and then they're going to add alcohol to it. And then it has a little reaction when you dump the alcohol in there. It'll actually start squirming. And then, well, some people said this is, just
Ooh.
proteins out of your mouth or whatever, but I don't know, man. This is some freaky,
Well,
I think
actually,
that's
that's what it does. There's a video that they sent to a forensic food lab to. Isn't that gross?
oh my God.
That they were looking into some different types of foods that you can get at a fast food restaurant, and the technologies that were zeroed in on at a high microscopic level resembles that.
Yeah, like chicken McNuggets, and
Yes,
they talked about. Is it
it's crazy.
is here's a question. So is Morgellons and smart dust kind of the same thing, or are they separate, or what is? It's kind of confusing because there's even black goo.
I think that I have to admit I did not look up Morgellons, but reading the caption, the underneath it, it's another type of technology that works in conjunction with these fibers that get onto your skin. They get absorbed, they get inhaled, they get ingested, and they attach themselves once they're in your system to your entire neurological pathways, so that way they can monitor every part of your body, your organs, your heart rate, your everything, just everything physiologically about the body. And it's transmitted back. This was the plan to the main framework that was laid out by this Meet Big Brother gentleman. There's a video on him. He's the technology. The patent was stolen by the U.S. Patent Office, and it was developed for Black Ops use. And what its purpose was to lay a foundation across the world, across the globe, to be able to monitor every human being on every task, everything that you're doing in life. And it's one giant mainframe, and the programmers can send whatever signal, whatever they want you to do. And that was their way that they were going to control the population. If you're out walking your dog, there's these types of little transmitters that are in the plants around you, in the trees, on the sidewalk, on your dog. I mean, it's absolutely hard for the average individual who hasn't been exposed or is just hearing this for the first time. I mean, it's just mind-boggling.
Right. So this was like putting in the foundation for pretty much potentially everybody being a targeted individual.
Well, that was the goal. That was the goal for the New World Order and Agenda 21 in 2030. So, but I do have, some good news. There's still some factions, though, that are out there that are being identified still in the process. So we can't jump the gun quite yet. But
I want to talk about one of the targeted individuals I got on screen here. This is Myron May.
Uh-huh.
Now, he was a lawyer. He's pretty well educated, and he said he was stalked by these.
Gang-stalked?
Yeah, gang stalked is the correct word, yeah.
Yes, gang stalked. And actually, there's the individual, Michael, the gentleman who lives in Phoenix, he too has been gang stalked. And he's got some he was reaching out to ask for help because most of these targeted individuals, this gentleman right here that's on screen, he too, he started to recognize, because a lot of these people that are being targeted are, well-educated people. They've got degrees, or, they're just strong citizens that have never been afflicted with anything prior to this.
And this was like the day before he did his shooting. He did the November 20th, 2014 shooting at Florida State University. Now, when I watched this video, he was like, he made so much sense the way he was talking. It seemed like he had his nuts and bolts together.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he went and shot stuff up.
Right.
This tape was left on loop when he did the shooting, and the cops, when they came to investigate his place, they saw this. And he was talking about targeted individuals. Please investigate this. Don't let this die.
Yes, and that it's odd, because until I started learning about bits and pieces about I'd watch a video, and somebody would mention some type of technology. I never had put two and two together, so it just wasn't, even though it was out there to a small degree, it was not, people weren't recognizing it because nobody really knew. If you exhibit any kind of symptoms or signs, then you're automatically labeled that you have psychiatric problems, and they're starting to find that's not the case at all. And it's just that this is a new.
And his shooting, Myron's shooting, it says right here, it only lasted 5 minutes. Came in at 12:25, and it was done by 12:30. The cops shot him dead. He was begging to be shot dead.
And this Nicholas Cruz, same thing with him. When the young man's brother came in during the police interrogation, I watched a large portion of it, and he was just devastated. I mean, the kid didn't have any idea, what was going on. He just said he had heard these voices in his head, and he was, he couldn't understand why. A lot of times, some of these experiments and these technologies are used on people that possibly have had some problems in their, early history, and they might appear to be weaker than, in their thought processing, or afflicted by something that's happened to them as a child and whatnot. So they will focus on that. And the way that, believe it or not, how this profiling is done is through all of your social media outlets and everything that you fill out online, LifeLock included, credit card, whatever that personal information that is sworn to privacy that a person goes online and enters is profiled. And so they're gathering evidence at an alarming rate of speed to put it all out there for people to for a profile to be created on a individual. And of course Facebook is currently
Number one.
is with by far hands down, and it was this is the algorithmic technology that was stolen from this Leaders Technology owner, Michael McKibben. When he found out that not only had it been stolen, but it had been weaponized. I mean, when he created this, he was floored. So because that's not and was not ever the intention for this development, but this is also the same type of technology of the algorithm that was weaponized and developed for further use to lay the World Wide Web, the connections completely around the globe. I mean, on every level that you can even possibly imagine. And that's quite a challenge. There's a huge lawsuit that's going on right now, and the Miller Act, which is that they're trying to enforce. So this is what's happened, and this massive World Wide Web artificial intelligence is the one that would be taking over the world pretty much and running the entire operation and controlling the population to do whatever they needed. You'd be if you didn't conform and go into a re-education or a relearning school, then you were dealt with. And end of story.
Right.
So,
yeah, I wanna bring up this clip of Tyrone Drewy. Now, people say, oh, Nicholas Cruz was crazy. He was whacked out of his mind. And maybe, yeah, if you have this stuff happening to you, you're getting these messages year after year, day after day, same time, whatever, it's going to drive you crazy.
down. Right.
So I got a clip here that I'm going to play. He's sitting with Robert Duncan now. We're going to get into him shortly.
Okay.
But let's just listen in here.
My experiences, the one time that I didn't do what they said, and guys, please don't laugh about this and don't judge me, but they tell me things like, hey, if you don't masturbate, we're going to murder your grandmother. I know it sounds crazy, man, and I don't know who the hell want to see me masturbate.
I know, it's just the control. They just want to see, will you obey?
But
will you obey?
But listen to this. The first time, and I promise you guys this, the first time that I didn't do what I was told, I went upstairs, and my grandmother, she's in a wheelchair, she has a pacemaker, she's 82 years old. Within minutes, because I didn't masturbate, my grandmother was slumped over in a wheelchair. I have to pick her up, put her on the toilet because she feels that she's kind of constipated and she thinks that it's gas. And I pick her up off the toilet, I put her back in a wheelchair. We had to use her life alert. She actually went to the hospital. And as she's going to the hospital, I had the person speaking to me says, I told you, if you didn't masturbate, what I was going to do. So there goes the whole theory of, these are idle threats. Now I am totally at the mercy and the control of verbal control. And this.
Well, think about that. First, they start you off slow. Something simple as, go masturbate, just to try to get that in your mind.
Yeah.
Show you that, hey, your grandmother's, she has a problem. If you get that over and over, year after year, then you're going to start obeying subtle things like that. Then pretty soon it's go shoot up a school.
Right.
And then you'll just obey it like that.
That's exactly right. Because what the technology does is it sends vibrations into the skull and brain matter. So right away they're inside of you, and that's helped out by the smart dust or neural dust that's already inside of us. And then what it does is it downloads audio and olfactory and visual data directly into the neurological systems in your body. And the TI at that point can be directed to do anything they're being told, commit suicide or commit a mass murder. So, and that gentleman was Dr. Duncan, who was sitting with Mr. Dewey.
Yep. So we'll listen to he helped developed the voice of God technology.
He personally developed. He took there's nanotechnology has been around for a very long time. So they were doing tests on it in the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. So they've just taken that, laid, for a foundation and have built upon that, as time has gone on. But Dr. Duncan, his intentions were, of course, never to do this. And what needs to be understood is that in these black ops projects, one person does not necessarily know what the final outcome is going to be, because these projects, they're developed in phases, in one group of
compartmentalized.
Right, and one group of scientists are responsible to do this, and then they're not told anything before nor after, and it just, until it's reached its, what they want to classify it as.
Yeah, what was interesting, I was having a discussion with a person at work, and they were like, well, how could they not know the final output? I was like, a perfect example is Apple computers. The people that developed the iPads here, there was a team that developed, okay, one person's going to work on the glass, one person's going to work on the button, the other person's going to work on the speakers. They don't know what the final product is. They're working on that one section.
Exactly.
The people that worked on the glass were like, I didn't know what this was for. We thought it was for a phone. We didn't realize it was for an iPad until we actually seen it on stage when Steve Jobs presented it.
And not only...
And that's a regular company. If we're talking about like black projects, think about that.
Well, guess what? they have a hand in the iPhone and iPads and let me rephrase that. All of our smartphone technology has been affected and by the Black Ops projects. There is another microprocessor that is hidden, from what I understand, in the Samsung phones, that has been somehow embedded into the battery of your phone. So you don't know. And all of our smartphones, our TVs, smart TVs, all of our electronic products, toasters, you name it, and the Alexa and what's in Microsoft, Cortana, they all have the capability and can spy on you. I mean, that's what I've been looking into different talks and discussions from these CEOs of these companies and from whistleblowers that used to work for companies that are exposing. So
I would say Alexa is probably the worst.
Yeah, that's scary, because when that news first broke and came out, I recall she was given a command in the testing phase. It was just a group of the top dogs in the company, and a question was presented to her, and the reply that she came back with was not what you expected. She had her own thought process. And she had her own opinion, and I was just blown away by that. I thought, oh my gosh. So it doesn't matter, if I cover the tape across my laptop's camera, or turn my computer off and take my battery out of my phone, somehow in some way they're spying on me.
And by the way, before we started the show, Lisa has to turn her camera on. I'm like, it's black. I'm like, do you have tape over your camera? Sure enough, yep. I cover mine up too, so.
Do you? Okay.
I do.
I mean, at least I don't have a lot of tin foil hanging around. No. But you know what? I mean, that's not funny, and it is funny. I meant it as just some humor because seriously, there has been zero awareness as to what people, everybody worldwide has actually been exposed to. It's just so unbelievable. I couldn't believe when I was looking at some advancements with the military technology on those mini tiny spy drones. That was so freaky. They've got that technology so far in outer space. They've been so far ahead of the game for so very long, and we are just now starting to get, starting to hear about it. It's still being, drip dropped through the, media because they haven't released everything yet. But it'll be up to.
Like I've always said, it's kind of they almost have to because now the private industry is catching up.
The private industries have been, the civilian industries have, they get contracted to, for instance, the military-industrial complex on the sonic technology where it will blast your eardrum, and that was proven and used, as I had mentioned, for the Cuban embassy, and they contract that portion. To, I think it was called Sontronics, I believe that's the name of the company, to, finalize this technology, and then it's, used on a person. So they've got thousands of patents that have been removed, and the inventors, the original inventors, they never knew what happened to their, inventions or their patents that were pending and so on and so forth, and actually used for technologies to hit a kill switch in a plane flying in the sky, your car, whatever, at the drop of or pushing a button, boom. And that's how these planes are dropping out of the sky, and how, these horrendous car crashes, where your brakes go out on you. And it's my little piece of technology that was a QR11, Q something 11. I don't recall exactly what it is, but that's was a popular item, and a good Able Danger, ABEL Danger.org is a global investigative service that these two gentlemen, David Hawkins and Field McConnell, run. And they do the intensive investigating into every crime that has been committed with these technologies and these horrific crimes that you only hear, that's glossied and Hollywooded, to the public. But when you actually read how dark and deep everything is, and these murders of people that hit the news are usually filmed as what they term as a snuff film, and it was put across this artificial web and filmed for people, elites that would do a bid, and the highest bidder, would, be paid, or they would bid, I'm sorry, to watch these films as the murders were taking place. It really, and you can get that information every
sick
day.
Stuff.
It surely is. And I'm so far down in the rabbit hole that sometimes
you can't get back out.
Yeah. I have nowhere else to go, because I can just go in a circle about 75,000 times and I'm still discovering things in the same spot.
Yeah. Well, let's play this clip of Robert Duncan. He's the founder of the Voice of God.
In particular, and something that I worked on that I'm not proud of, but it's called the Voice of God weapon. So there are 4 different techniques and technologies that can pipe voices into an individual's head. And once you can do that, you can control them using neuro-linguistic programming techniques. You're rewiring their thought processes and brains. And so this gets into what's called offensive information warfare. And they used it, I believe, in the Gulf War to tell the enemy at that time, lay down your guns, this is Allah. And it worked pretty well, because hearing voices which have no direction or sound, you have to assume that it's some spiritual entity.
That's insane. I mean, that you could easily make people think it's God. This kind of reminds me of the weather weapons that they have too, where they could, and the Ho Chi Minh Trail, they made it rain so they could make that war easier to win.
That's true. That's true. They have weaponized the weather, and these hurricanes and unusual weather patterns that are devastating, cities and coastal fronts and whatnot is unbelievable. And that was the HARP technology that has been out there for quite a few years, but no one paid any attention, because these people, the geoengineers, I think Dale Wiggingham or something, he really was trying to wake the population up. People pay attention. They were taking the technologies and poking holes in the Earth's atmosphere, and it was disrupting, the entire pattern of how the weather, goes through the atmosphere and whatnot. And we're getting space debris, we're getting things that are coming in from outer space, and just insane situations. The same with they can manipulate earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, rainstorms, do things that trigger volcanoes. I mean, just unbelievable.
Right. Unbelievable. And that's why it makes me mad, because we just had a flood here. Well, twice now. We just had one the other day again. But they at least had the technology to stop it, and they don't. I mean, this stuff's already been admitted, and it's like, how long is this charade going to go on?
Because
one thing I want to talk about Duncan back here real quick.
Okay.
He said that there is a minimum of 10,000 people that are TIs, official TIs. He says a minimum. That's crazy.
Correct. That is correct. And they're actually there is so many more that are out there that do not realize that they are TIs. And,
and then also that we were talking about earlier, we have this stuff already in us too, so we could potentially be one too.
Well, there's a way that in one of Dr. Duncan's
lectures
talks and everything, that if you are already amongst the population that's awakened and you're aware of this, you can be definitely targeted. I mean, I feel that, and I just attributed it to just the way the body functions, that you'll hear ringing in your ears. You might get a flash of heat, that's not, not the normal menopausal experience that the female has, but it's happening to everybody. I mean, at any time. And
he said tinfoil won't protect you. So tinfoil hats won't protect you, folks.
Right. And nor will the silver that we, back in the 60s when they put in fillings, which was full of poisons. That's another way that they've been, killing us off. It's just crazy stuff. It's just so unbelievable, and it's important that that as many people, people that we reach people that to make them aware so that they can do their own research and their own discernment, and learn what is going on. But the there is an official website that has been created now for the targeted individual. Any victim that feels that something is just wrong, it's not right, and there's a website that I've placed, that I put up out there, that they can contact. There is actually a class action lawsuit in addition to that, that is the people, targeted individuals from the UK and other countries, and in the US, are all involved in this. People are starting to come together, but there's so much more that is people are unaware of. And the sad thing is that it's our own agencies within our government, the U.S. government, who are part of this, because we're the greatest nation on earth, and the whole purpose was to destroy America so that they could bring in their new world order, and that's why all of these technologies were going to be used. They were, if you've noticed, the military is training our civil, our local and state level police, law enforcement, to be militarized. So, and CIA has placed their operatives in every level and position everywhere, worldwide. They could be a teacher, they could work in a library, they can be a bank teller. So they've been placed in regular positions, that the average citizen will, that does their work, and worldwide, so that when the time came, then everything could be taken down at once. So,
right. Well, I think that's kind of a good place to wrap up, unless you wanted to add a little more. I think the whole point was to bring awareness to everybody here, so the folks know that, hey, this stuff is real. We just showed a bunch of clips on here. Do more research. There's so much out there. You gave me so many documents and stuff to go through. It was crazy.
Just one thing I would like to say on an upside to all of this. With President Trump's signing into a new Space Force. It's going to be the 6th branch of the military. Huh?
Space Force.
Oh, yes, there you go. and these huge technology giants, such as the G word.
Yeah, the bad G word.
And
and the F word.
Yes, all of them. You name it. Yeah. The good news is that our white hats military that works hand in hand with President Trump and Q, which I just love to follow on a daily basis. They've been taking down all kinds of satellites in the atmosphere, in the low Earth orb, that belong to these rogue agencies and some of our government agencies that were involved in the dark side of things. Those have been taken down and are out of commission. So hopefully we're going to, start to go into a healing process. I mean, right now it's chaotic and insane, but
right, yeah, and even on the QAnon forums, there was talk about there's going to be some mass arrest maybe within the next couple weeks here or something like that. If that starts to happen, like we see Hillary Clinton get arrested, we can start going into this golden age. It'll really repel us in there, because now people are seeing the corruption getting taken care of.
You are 100% correct on that. And that's why President Trump had signed into action that the month of September is to be dedicated to national emergency preparedness. And so, in other words, he's asking that every citizen get yourself set up with extra food, money, water, and whatnot, and a evacuation plan if necessary. Because if he has to temporarily put in martial law, it's going to be to protect the citizens and to, from civil unrest, because it's going to get pretty hairy, and you need to buckle up and prepare yourself, because once that's accomplished and these arrests are taking place, you are right. We're going to be smooth sailing into the golden age.
Could you imagine all the liberals going crazy, going, "Oh, he's declaring martial law. He's a dictator." Oh my gosh.
I know.
I mean, I'm not for martial law or anything, but if we have to lock down while stuff gets taken care of, I mean.
Right, and nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, he really is a patriot, and so I will, once the golden age kicks in, I'll be jetting in the sky, in my flying Mercedes.
Yeah. There you go.
I'll probably swing by and as I pass over your studio and say, "Hey."
We'll have you in studio then.
You probably won't. You'll be somewhere in the vortex in Sedona.
Yeah, because we'll have the portal teleportation technology, so you can go have lunch in frickin' Italy or something and come back for work. Oh, it'd just be such an amazing world. But
without a doubt. And there's just so much information and people that like the 20 and back soldiers that were part of these projects where they lose 20 years of their life and they come back, and they're telling, it's hard. People don't know if they should accept it or not, but it's there. I mean, you can't deny it. You can't deny that there's so much civilizations going on. William Tompkins, who was the famous
engineer that built the spaceships.
Yes, he dropped some truth bombs that were eye-opening. That we're far beyond the moon and Mars. We've got trade set up throughout our solar system.
That's why it wrecks me when I got to sit and go to a 9-to-5 job. It's like there's no reason for this, and it's like right. Everybody's. We could be living in that golden age right now. But
you are
we'll
right.
Just leave it at.
We will be. I don't know if I'll be able to live in it at in this body, but I certainly will be in my next body.
I tell you, I wouldn't want to come back here, but.
Oh no, me either. I've learned all that I feel that's been necessary, to learn, and it seems like in this part of my life, I've already done the 9-to-5. I've been in nice positions. I don't want that anymore either. I can't even bring myself to think about it. I mean, that's how far past it I am now at this point. I just wanted to suck in this new knowledge and, and grab a hold of it and spread it as far and wide as I can.
Ready for the shift.
Yes.
All right, Lisa. Well, thanks for joining me today. That was a great discussion.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on Talk is Cheap. Look into this stuff. This is some crazy stuff. Like, when you watch the Jesse Ventura show that talked about it, is like mind-opening. That's more of the entertaining ones to get you started. But then when you listen to Duncan's lectures and, you listen to Myron May, who was one of the targeted individuals who did the shooting, he sounds like he's got his nuts and bolts together to me, but make up your own mind. And next week, big surprise, we're going to do the regular show with all three of us, Dusty and Pete. We're going to be in studio. We're going to do it live. We're shooting for 5:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. I'm going to get it out early, let you guys know, so that's all confirmed, but that's going to be very interesting. We're going to have the chat. We're going to have the call-in number. I'm going to talk about skinwalkers. It's going to be real fun. It's a new thing, getting everybody on, doing it live. It should be interesting, but live always has its hiccups, so that'll be fun. We'll see you next week. Dan Hohlfeld signing out on Talk is Cheap. Bye-bye.